Welcome, everybody, to the Self-Improvement Podcast. My name is Dalton Cox, and here with me today, as always, is Ian.
Today, we're talking about working for education versus working for money, how you want to think about work so that you're getting the most out of it, and you're learning, and it's about finding something deeper in the work that you're doing than just work.
So, the first time I came across this idea was from a book called Think and Grow Rich by Robert T. Kiyosaki.
I think it's Napoleon Hill.
Sorry, not Think and Grow Rich. Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert T. Kiyosaki. He brought to my attention the idea of, not finding a job based on making money, instead finding a job on pursuing your education. And, what he had done is he had gone through different companies. Like, he went through the military for flight school. He had done a bunch of different things that had taught him how to manage his money properly and become very wealthy. And so for me, how I can relate to this is I remember back last year, I was working for a pool construction company. And let me tell you, I was making a lot of money, especially for my age. I was 18 years old and I was making $1,000 per week on average. And that was great money, except it kind of had some blowback, which happened to be I was spending all of my time working. And so after that job, I realized that not only did I have to, work to pay the bills, but I also had to work for other things in my life, for my ideal future. And, going back to that thing that we always talk about, finding your why, I wanted to be a good leader. And I want to be an instructor in the Air Force. And that also counts with physical exercise. And so the job that I have now is I work at the YMCA. I work in the wellness center, and I also work with kids. Two things that are going to help me in my future career. And the pay's not that great because the YMCA is a nonprofit organization. What I am getting out of it, however, is great learning opportunities. With leadership, instructing a bunch of kids, showing them the ways of life and how to behave is all leadership. It's not about, do this, do that. You learn that quickly, because if you're constantly yelling at kids to do something, they're not going to like you and they're not going to do it. So it requires a lot of tact, which is something you learn on the job, as well as educating yourself. And then working in the wellness center has been a great learning opportunity because I have met a lot of different people with a lot of different fitness backgrounds, such as a retired Army Ranger, and his advice for me, as well as different personal trainers and their tactics, and even a retired personal trainer who showed me different stretches and different ways to build muscle mass. So, this job has really educated me to a point where I can pursue my ideal future. So, Ian, how can you relate to this idea?
Man, I can relate a lot, especially with my business, because I worked a job, like a regular job before, and the money was consistent and everything. But after a while, I wasn't happy because I wasn't learning new things. I feel like this is true for a lot of jobs, entry-level jobs, where the first month or two or a couple months are fresh and like there's new people, you're learning different things. But then it comes to a point where you realize there isn't that much more to that job. So you're kind of just working for money. Um, and what's interesting about us as humans is that, yes, we like certainty that there's a paycheck every 2 weeks or every month, but we also like uncertainty. But I didn't have that. I didn't have enough uncertainty. So after saving up, I did something that sane people wouldn't do, which is that I quit and I invested in myself and I really spent more time building my business. And in the first month, 2 months, maybe 3 as well, I wasn't making much more than I used to at the job that I was working. And that was scary because I was doubting myself because I was too focused on the money part and I wasn't realizing enough the skills I learned in those first 3 months of building my business, not having any like real revenue, but I learned time management, mindset, sales, how to find leads, people that are interested in buying from you, um, how to create your own schedule, finding ways not to stay up too late, not to get distracted, and just to focus on the plan that you set for yourself. So many skills within those first couple months. And then when the revenue started pouring in, that was great because then I still was learning new things because business is like limitless, but I also had money. And at that point, I started making more than I was making at that entry level job I mentioned. So it was scary, but working for education and not getting paid anything for months and months was worth it to me. Because, like Dalton, that was actually building my future. I know what I want for my future. I want to be working with the most famous rappers and artists. I want to develop the next biggest rapper and artist. I want to be doing all these things. And by working on my business and learning these skills, learning the mindset, I can use that to build my future and like help others. So I'm very glad that I was applying that in my life. I wasn't applying it entirely, but now I'm starting to realize more how much of a gem this is.
Mm. And something that Ian and I have is a plan. We know what it is that we want to do in the coming years. And for some people, that may not be the case. So I'd like to take this opportunity to encourage all of our listeners to maybe, after I give you some format, to pause this podcast and write down a huge list, like take 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes brainstorming all the things you'd like to see in your most ideal future. After you finish writing that list, I'd like you to think and circle of the top 10 things that would be most important to you to have in your ideal future. And those 10 things that you've circled out of that brainstorm will be your goals. And from now on, my challenges for you listeners is to work towards those goals, to make decisions that will have an impact on achieving those goals. And that may be financially, that may be managing your money better. That may be asking for that raise. That may be getting that job that's going to educate you so you can achieve that ideal future. So for Ian, your ideal future, Ian, is to be a successful entrepreneur in the music industry. Am I correct? It's one of your goals.
Yeah, that's a major goal, and I'm kind of already doing it, but obviously at a much larger scale. Be a recognizable name.
Your recognizable name. So, what are things that you do on a day-to-day basis that help you work towards that goal of being a recognizable name in the music industry?
Of course, man, educating myself. That's always happening in the background. Investing in books, courses, coaches. Also coaching my clients teaches me a lot, because then the application, it solidifies what it is that I'm learning. So that's one thing. Another thing is connecting with more people and really being a good listener and seeing what people actually want. It's another major thing I do, is to be this figure that provides a lot of knowledge, but also listens. So that's number 2. Number 3 is marketing myself through content, through building my email list, through reaching out to people, seeing what they got going on, and where they could use some help. And those 3 things move me forward, because I have the theory, but also have the action. So I'm working, all my work revolves around how can I get better? And I don't think about the money part, because the money, I know, I trust, and I know that it comes as a byproduct. Just, working for education, the byproduct is always going to be money. So you don't need to work for money. When you work for money, you actually make less money, ironically. There's a quote I really like that I picked up from one of my earliest coaches, which is, direction is more important than speed. So back to the example you gave me earlier today, where you were making 1,000 a week as an 18-year-old, which is great. Like, from the outside, you were going fast. That was speed. That felt great for a while. But the direction was not the right direction for you. There was, your priorities were mixed up, and that's okay. But that taught you something, and that was a great experience.
Absolutely. And might I add, during that time when I was making all that money, at first it was great. It was like, wow, I can do whatever I want. I don't have to depend on anybody. I can live in hotels. And I ended up being miserable because I didn't have any direction. The lack of direction made me miserable, especially because I didn't have any time to myself other than, working.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I had a speech at my school. And let me tell you a little bit about myself. I was supposed to join the Air Force, went through a breakup, and it affected me emotionally. And I let that emotion get the best of me. And so I stopped going to school. I moved out of state. I got that job. I quit a really nice job that was going to benefit me in my future, into a job that I was just making more money at, spending more time, distracting myself. I lived in hotels and motels spending pretty much all of my money. So I felt like all that work I had done went in vain. And you know what? It was a great learning opportunity. It showed me that I need to have direction in my life. I need to have purpose so that I can be happy. Which is, when I realized that I really wanted to be in the Air Force, I was able to work towards that goal. And something else I may add is I learned a lot while I was at that job too, a lot of skills.
Mm-hmm.
I learned how to drive trucks, how to pull trailers, how to operate an excavator, a skid steer, how, what a blue collar work environment was like.
Mm-hmm.
All those things, which I'll carry with me forever, as well as, the dark parts of working in construction.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's been the biggest and best lesson for me.
Mm-hmm.
And, looking back at it, I don't appreciate all that money that I made at all. What I do appreciate is what I've taken away from working there. The knowledge I have gained.
The perspective. Yeah.
Yes.
I can say that myself too. Working in retail. Yes, it felt like I was stagnating after a while, but I did learn customer service, communication, like what to do when someone is like angry at you, self-awareness, how to react in a professional manner by being aware of how you're feeling and then acting accordingly. Discipline, because retail isn't easy. It's not the easiest, but it's also not easy. There's a lot of demands during certain times of the day. And I'm grateful for it. It wasn't in the direction I was going, but it was an experience that allowed me to get clearer on that direction.
I also worked in retail for a little while. I worked at Home Depot, and I can relate to that, customer service part of it, how to not get too emotional when someone's screwing at your face because a certain part isn't at the store that said it was online, which is a good skill to have in life, really. If you're on the street and, maybe some crackhead walks up to you and starts spitting at you, calling you names and flipping you off and motioning to you to come fight him, with that knowledge of how to deal with people when they're getting emotional and not to get emotional yourself, you may avoid a really big complication.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That kind of applies to school too, is like speed versus direction. Like when people, and I fell victim to this myself, when people like look at what college to go to, what to do, they look at speed. How can I take the easiest route and make the most money? Like which career is going to allow me to do that? Easiest career, most amount of money.
Yeah.
But that's a mistake, man.
Yeah. Crazy enough, I was talking to this young sophomore girl a couple months ago about, what she wanted to do in life. And she was like, oh yeah, I want to be an electrician. And I was like, why? Well, it's, pretty good job security and they get paid pretty well. She didn't really have a deeper purpose to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. And I kind of apply that same theory to like clients I want to bring on, or prospects I want to, turn into clients. If they're in it, if they want to get into music for the money, not for the self growth and the impact they can have, then automatically I don't want to work with them because that's not in alignment with who I am. And I want to
Mm.
move people in the right direction, not give them speed. Because if I give them speed, it's only going to be temporary.
You know, I'm in Italy right now, and I met up with a couple of girls a few nights ago, and we went out walking in Florence. We went out to eat, and I learned about one of the girls is that she loves horseback riding. She jumps horses at shows. She's Italian, and she talked about how horses can, sense your intentions,
Mhm.
and that sometimes, people can't ride horses or get bucked off horses or don't do well on horses because of their intentions. If your intention to ride a horse is to look cool and impress your friends, or to dominate the horse, you're probably not going to have a good time. The horse is probably not going to respond to you as well. In contrast with somebody who's riding a horse because it's something that they're passionate about, that they love the animal, something along those lines.
Mm. Mhm. For sure. Yeah. It's about getting clear about that intention because I mean, really, you can work a job and you can always learn something, and we have, but it's not just about the education, but like the direction of education. I just wanted to throw that
Mm,
in there.
absolutely.
I think I wanted to mention something else about direction versus speed, but it slipped my mind. Um, yeah, this
Let
is.
me,
Go ahead.
yeah, you know, in life, speed, when you're pursuing something, speed isn't usually the best path. Like, if you want to get fit, you want to gain muscle, and you see all these promotions out there, get fit fast. And you want to take the easy path, the one of least resistance, you're not going to get there. And even if you do find a path that's, easy and it's fast, such as dirty bulking, you're going to suffer in the long run.
Mm.
So it's true in fitness, it's true in business, it's true in life. The fast path, the path of least resistance, the too good to be true path usually is too good to be true. And you're going to have to put in that work. You're going to have to put in that time to really see the best results.
For sure. And I want to talk about David Ramsey, or Dave. It's not David, sorry. Dave Ramsey, the Ramsey Show. I was watching one of his episodes, and his backstory, I believe, was that he amassed a lot of wealth. I think he was a millionaire at 24 or something, and he got rich pretty quick. He, I think it was either stocks or he sold gold or silver, something along those lines. One of those things that actually can get you rich quick sometimes for very few people. So he was lucky, and he was telling his story on the Ramsey show, and he was like, "I lost all my wealth a couple of years later at 27 because somehow he made the wrong decision or the market changed, and he lost everything, and he had to start from scratch, and it took him 3 or 4 times longer, maybe 5 times longer, to amass that same wealth." And he was talking about his story to teach people that getting there slower but moving in the right direction, like having long lasting wealth, for example, is better than getting rich quick, which is obvious, but it really relates to what we're talking about with your purpose, with your work, working for money versus education. Like when you build something slowly over time, there's a lot more lessons that you can fit into that period of time. Um, like I'm not looking to get rich quick in my business or sign the most clients, although that would be great. I'm looking to understand my market, to educate myself even further on music marketing, music business, artist development, using marketing systems to build a closer connection with fans, all these great things that I'm passionate about, how to make better music for my artists that I work with, how to mix better, how to be a better producer. That's what I'm doing it for. And by staying consistent with that and aligning myself with the education, my self-education, and educating myself about the market, then everything else automatically comes to me. I know that for sure. It has happened before, it's happening now, and it's going to continue to happen. It's funny though, because I was kind of relying on speed back in high school. I was like, okay, before I came across music production and all beats, that's kind of like my first spark of passion. Before I came across that, looked at different things like radiology, dentistry, uh, accounting. Let's see, I think I had one more. I even considered being a math teacher. I considered being a pilot, like a commercial airline pilot, all these things. And at that time, I was looking at, okay, which one can make me the most money? But deep inside, I knew that it was not fulfilling. Something inside of me was saying, is this what life is really about? Is it about maximizing on every part of life, or is it about enjoying it? And I had to think about that. And luckily, because I came across music production, beat making, and then marketing, sales, coaching, being a coach, that sparked inspiration, that sparked a passion for learning, a passion for growth rather than money. And that's great because now the money is coming in.
Yeah, that's that's great. People have these money scripts usually,
Mm.
and sometimes people think that lots of money equals self-worth. Really, they're not the same. Money is neutral. It's not bad and it's not good. It's just a tool you can use to pursue your goals, to achieve your goals. It's a tool more than
Help
anything.
others too. Like you can use it to help others. It's just a tool.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think there were a lot of gems in this episode. This is probably one of my favorite episodes so far. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it dug a little bit deeper than what I thought it could have, which
Mhm.
is great. And it's probably going to have to wrap it up for today. Thank you guys for tuning in today on our podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed and pulled something out here useful. Again, please take some time, write down what your most ideal future looks like. Circle the top 10 things that you feel are the most necessary or most passionate about, and make decisions day by day to pursue those goals. And instead of working for money, try working for some education. Work towards that ideal future. And remember that every day you're either getting better or worse. So it's going to be. We'll see you guys next week.